Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Friday, February 20th, 2026, and today we're talking about some soil blocking alternatives with a fun AI question attached. You know how that goes over with me. Saving the soil for the future, and it is Feedback Friday, so let's do it. All right, happy Friday, everyone. I hope your weeks have gone well and that you haven't been too distracted by the Olympics, but hopefully just a little bit distracted. As you can tell, my voice has been a little tender these last 2 days, and I suspect that I either got a little too excited with Alyssa Liu's win yesterday, or that I maybe have a minor cold, and this is just how it manifests itself. I don't actually ever really get sick or feel bad. I just lose my voice from time to time. So I guess that's the trade-off. Anyway, I feel good, ready for a fun Friday. Also, shouts to Brian for the 20-second farm video clip that he sent yesterday of his seed starting setup. And please, listeners and viewers, always feel free to send along your own 20-second farm video clips to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. Would love to see some of those seed propagation stations like Brian's. That was very cool. Anyway, let's not dally because it is Friday, which means Feedback Friday, where we explore what you all were saying about this week's topics. On Monday, we talked about spring broccoli and the risks of lawn clippings. That day, at Ox and Anna wrote, quote, "Thanks for the episode, Jesse and team. While watching the grass clipping segment, I had a sad light bulb moment and realized that I most likely contaminated a few cubic feet of the soil mix that I made for potting up my seedlings with some herbicide or pesticide-laden rice hulls. I did the germination test of the bean seeds that I saved, and poor things have been twirling and twisting, and I couldn't understand why. Now I do, but what a bummer. I was really hopeful to save this year on soil during the potting up stage," end quote. Yeah, bummer. So that's just unfortunate. And in fact, I had not heard of or thought of really rice hulls with, and the potential for contamination like it is with wheat straw sometimes. But it is indeed a thing that rice may be sprayed late in the cycle for desiccation with herbicides. And there are studies on how to do that really effectively. So that's fun. That may affect rice straw as well as rice hulls. And just a little heads up there. Yay, herbicides, the gift that just keeps on giving. And as a bonus, the administration this week just ordered an increase in production of glyphosate in case you thought things might be getting better. Nope. Not even a little bit. On the broccoli front, at Richard Roadcap wrote that some years they're overrun with cabbage worms and BT is required, which I totally get that. And one aspect of growing broccoli that I neglected to mention is just birdhouses, flowers, native habitat, and plants, etc. The beneficials that those will bring in will help with a lot of the pest pressure, but especially your brassica pests. My favorite is the wasp. They will devour some cabbage worms for sure. That is one of my favorite things to watch happen every year. It's like sometimes I just feel like I grow broccoli and brassicas just to watch the wasps go to town on the cabbage worms. I should get other hobbies maybe. On Tuesday, we talked foraging, what 2025 taught me for 2026, and the mighty rake. Brad Liston wrote, quote, "I love a good hard 18-inch gravel rake. What a great tool to use to move hard material or flip it over and run it soft with the backside like a little grater. It is impressive the mileage that organic growers can get out of hand tools. And those basic four that you mentioned, end quote, for sure. Shovel, wheelbarrow, stirrupo, rake. That's like my Rushmore of gardening tools. Legends, those things." Several good comments on foraging. At Wendy Eames wrote, quote, "My 3-year-old grandson won't eat a salad to save his life. However, he loves to help his mom weed the garden. What helping means is he's out there grazing on the wood sorrel like a cow," end quote. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our kids love sour stuff, so wood sorrel is a great entry, as it was for our kids. I used to take our kids around, in fact, and show them different plants on the farm and how to use them, but I will say that the wood sorrel is their consistent favorite. On Wednesday, we had the great Mikey and Kaz back on to chat about what goes into deciding which crops that they grow on their farm and which crops not to. At Brad Liston, and 2 shouts for Brad this week, quote, "This end of video chat about raising up the floor and non-negotiables. I like that conversation about being proud of what you do, raising those expectations for yourself in many ways, not just for growing. Awesome, good stuff," end quote. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love how Mikey and Kaz are saying we are professionals and this is a professional business, and we want everyone here to feel that sense of propriety. And here, that's great. Farming so often doesn't really feel that way or get that sort of recognition as like a really professional industry, but it absolutely is, and it absolutely should be. At Kristen Mannion seconded that as well. Quote, I love the idea of raising the floor, raising your baseline. Don't just quote unquote tolerate small failures, eliminate them completely. End quote. Yeah, lots of love for Mikey and Kez and what they're doing down there. I hope they're proud because it is very cool, and I'm honored they are so willing to share their work with us. Then on Thursday, we talked about nitrogen and no-till, keeping basil looking fresh, software, and the unfortunate passing of Dr. Elaine Ingham. Lots of good tributes that day in the comments to Dr. Ingham. At Rubber Duck Style wrote, quote, I don't till, no fertilizer, herbicides, pesticides, or fungicides. Dr. Ingham started this when she said, does Mother Nature do it? This opened my eyes so much. Rest in peace, end quote. And yeah, I mean, she really inspired me in the fields as well, especially with things like cover crops and compost teas and, just good compost making. Truly take some time this weekend to watch some of her talks or listen to the episode that I was fortunate enough to get to record with her for the No Till Market Garden podcast many years back, or the one that Josh Satin actually recorded for Growers Alive. We just lost an absolute giant. Very sad stuff. On Lee's question about basil, at Gavin McKee mentioned that little organic basil starts can go for $10, and that is a good option as well for basil, for sure. The first plant I ever owned, in fact, was a little basil plant. Someone sold me on the streets of New York. I killed it pretty fast, but someone with an actual garden and basic understanding of how plants work could probably use that. Then there is no washing and packing for you at all. You just sell them the plant, and they can do all that stuff. That seems like a pretty sweet deal. Anyway, great stuff as always, friends. You all rock. Never fails. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about some alternative to soil blocks along with a side of AI ranting. Why not? BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Tend. Farming is hard, running it shouldn't be. Meet Tend, the purpose-built platform built by farmers for farmers. Plan your season, map your farm, and track every task from seed to sale. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork, just smart, seamless workflows. Tend adapts to your farm, 1 acre or 100. Real-time inventory, sales, labor, tracking, traceability, and analytics all in one place. You grow food, flowers, fruit, and more. Tend helps you to grow smarter. Start free today at tend.com. That's TEND.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Amy Blankenship, who writes, quote, I want to talk about seeds, smiling emoji. I have some questions and maybe an answer. First, you've talked about seed starting with soil blocks and then creating soil balls, I think. Are there other seed starting systems you like/use? For the soil balls, which crops need it and when do you do it? Also, when I first joined, I asked a question similar to a question asked recently, which is, how do you sort through all the catalogs to figure out your seed orders? I think I may have an answer, though it uses AI. I asked Google's Notebook LM to go find me information on squash varieties that do well in my region with an emphasis on resistance to squash vine borer. I asked it to find reputable companies that sell those seeds and compile days to maturity, planting info, and price. Once it found the resources, I asked it to build me a table of what it found so I could see which companies sold what. I think you could extend this approach to all the seeds you need for the season. By the way, you could probably use Notebook LM to just make your compilation episodes, or at least scrape your episodes for ones on specific topic. Just saying, smiley laugh emoji, end quote. All right, great stuff here, Amy. Love it. Let's take the seed question first, and then I can talk a little bit about the AI stuff. The handmade seed balls we do are reserved almost exclusively for potting up our peppers and sometimes tomatoes. Though with grafting, I've moved back to using the 4-inch soil blocker because you can't have any, soil above the graft when you're doing grafting, which is hard to control with the balling. I've also used those soil balls for basil, and in theory, you could use it for any sort of potting up. But really, once the seedling starts to yellow maybe, or just outgrow its tray, like it's just getting too dense in the tray, then that's when we do the balling up. Like we're just moving it from, being small and, overcrowded in a little tray to having more space and more soil to work with. And for us, the balling is just faster than making those 4-inch soil blocks. But I don't start seeds within those soil balls. Like that's almost exclusively used for potting up. Of course, you could do that on a small scale. And also shouts to the Fukuoka seed balls, which are seeds rolled into clay balls so the crows wouldn't eat them or don't eat them. And then they're broadcast in a field. A very clever idea. For alternatives in terms of seed starting, we will sometimes use wind strip trays, though I find that keeping them moist can be a bit of a challenge, as the slits on the side that help with air pruning also help with just, air, so they dry out really quickly. So they do require bottom watering to consistently keep them moist. Obviously, soil blocks have been in existence long before soil blockers came along, and in places like the Chinampas, where soil blocks are built out of drudged up soil from the lake, the blocks are then kind of cut out of the mud and then seeded, and then you grow your little transplants that way. Very cool and ancient technique, and maybe there is a way, a clever enough grower could come up with to do that sort of thing for their scale for seed starting. Now, to your AI stuff, in the first example where you have a chat bot, kind of gather all the information about the squash, etc., assuming all the information compiled for you is correct, squash that does well in your region, for instance, does raise my eyebrows a little bit, because I would be interested to read the citations there, as there are almost no regional side-by-side studies to, even gather that sort of information from that I'm aware of. But anyway, and I mean this respectfully to you and anyone who uses this technology, but what you've really described here is a seed rep. We all have one for every major company, or you can just email the company if they aren't big enough to have seed reps, and someone will get back to you about it. But they will send you a list, and an accurate one, of what they offer that makes sense for your region with the prices. It's kind of literally their job. Would it take more work to kind of communicate with them? Sure, a little bit, but you might also get more accurate information from people who have actually, seen the crops growing, probably on a farm in your region. And then you could compile a pretty simple spreadsheet from that and get, like I said, more accurate information. Moreover, sure, maybe a rep wants you to buy something, like there is an incentive there, but seed reps aren't sycophantic in the way AI models tend to be. The ones I know don't work on commissions and want you to be successful so that you will continue to buy from their company. They're not going to sell you something just based on what they think you'll like. So for me, that's like a more valuable resource, and one that we don't want to eliminate, and one we don't want to make obsolete, because they literally go to the farms and see the crops growing and talk to the growers about what they feel about this or that crop. So I think that's an incredibly valuable resource. The other thing you described with Notebook LM about compiling the episodes or whatever is kind of literally Mike's job. I mean, if he thought it was a tool that he wanted to use and could help him, I'd hear him out, but I'm not replacing jobs with tech. I'd rather just be less efficient. We need people with skill sets like these. We need them to have the practice. It's really great to have somebody who knows this show inside and out and kind of has the knowledge of what I've produced so far, like Mike does. Now, to be clear, the AI that most concerns me, the one that I'd mostly complain about, is the generative AI for its power usage and just breathless plagiarism. But the AI that just takes people's jobs like this is kind of the other, especially those jobs in and around agriculture. If I'm allowed an old man moment here, I have farmed for going on 17 years now without any of these tools, and the only reason I have the knowledge that I do is because I have done the work, and the work it took to learn what I know as something I can pass on to others. These AI tools don't help people long term. They weaken the knowledge base by eliminating the number of people who have actually done the work or seen the crop in action or edited the videos, etc. I recognize the losing battle that I'm in with this technology, but it's really important to just be cautious about the long-term implications of using it and promoting it. These chatbots are starting to not only take jobs and cut off communication among people more than the internet already masterfully has, but they are also starting to take ad revenue away from people like myself and the other creators that you watch and love and listen to. So these bots are not only stealing the information, emphasis on stealing it, that we provide, but they are also starting to capitalize on that stolen information, which takes that thievery to a whole other level. Then the net effect of that will eventually be less information down the line, because not only will there be fewer people with actual experience, but at some point it will just not be worth it, me or anyone else making videos or podcasts, to share that experience, because the AI chatbots, in many cases using the information of farmers like me, will make this work financially unjustifiable. With all the love in the world to you and my friends who do use this stuff, I'm not trying to be mean. We all just have to keep in mind that convenience has a cost. And it's me, it's you, it's jobs, it's farms. Remember that farmland is being absolutely devoured right now in the name of data centers. It's water, it's energy, and to me, it's just not worth it. But everyone has to decide that for themselves. And who knows, maybe my thoughts on this will change as energy efficiency gets substantially better and more long-term jobs are created, which I have my doubts about, but I guess it could happen. And the plagiarism ends and the creators of that information are fairly compensated, LOL. But for now, that's where I stand. Anyway, love the question though. I love the challenges. I like having this discourse. We're going to take a quick break though. And when we come back, we will talk something maybe more hopeful, like soil. What's more hopeful than that? We're going to soil the whole world. Why does that sound wrong? Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Certified Naturally Grown. Certified Naturally Grown is the grassroots certification built by farmers for farmers. C&G gives local growers like you recognition for the commitment of producing food without synthetic chemicals by assuring customers that your practices are verified. C&G's peer review inspection model keeps the cost of certification low while creating opportunities for knowledge sharing amongst a strong, supportive network of like-minded farmers. Apply today to be certified before the season ramps up. Applications processed within 7 days. Learn more at naturallygrown.org. All right, back to the show. All right, so I do promise to get more positive here, but I can't start there. I have to kind of set it up. I have to start in the present because I think one of the hardest things to explain to future generations is going to be just how little was done in our time to protect land, air, and water. Like, period. We can all expect a nice, swift kick in the shins from our grandkids and or great-grandkids because it's coming and it's deserved for how we are all well aware of how poorly we are treating this planet, our lush, verdant, one-of-a-kind in this galaxy, full of potential planet, but how little we are simultaneously doing to protect it. I think about this all the time. I think about the absolute unrelenting, if not frankly cheered on, dismantling of our natural world and what this gluttonous use of resources will look like in 50 or 100 years to those people who are having to deal with the repercussions. We are living through an egregious evisceration of soil, air, water, wildlife, and ultimately human health. Preserving the natural world feels helpless at times. Thousands and thousands of acres of good agricultural land are falling to data centers that who knows how long they will even be in use as data centers, but that farmland will be gone forever, for good. Poof. Urbanization and desertification likewise are claiming large swaths of land every day. The current administration has aggressively doubled down on fossil fuel usage over renewable energy, even standing in the way of new wind and solar projects that could help ease the burden and pollution. Oh, and of course, again, glyphosate production was increased by executive order this week. All of that will have far-reaching effects on the land and the water and ecology and ultimately us. But I promised to be hopeful here, or at least positive. And I'm not going to betray that because, and hear me out, it could be the opposite. All of this could be the opposite. Not to be super corny, but the story is not yet written and the future has not yet come. With enough work in coalition building and policy development, we could stop this march towards desertification, biodiversity decline, land loss, water and air pollution. I know I've talked about this before, but we are at a place, given the science we have, the wealth present still, the interest in ecological systems and the land not yet fully depleted, we are in a place and a position to not just, leave future generations a vaguely survivable world, but an absolutely abundant one to create a beautiful world for future generations to just enjoy. Think of the best breath you've ever taken after a hike deep in the woods, on a ski slope, at the beach, wherever. Whatever that freshest breath you've ever taken, imagine that, but everywhere all the time. And that is achievable. And the reason that does not feel far-fetched is because the number of people who would be on board for this grows by the day. Regenerative farmers, obviously, who are seeing land prices soar and land access disappear and contamination from outside sources. Hunters who want to see forests rich with wild game again and to the point that they could hunt things maybe they haven't seen in years. People who fish and have, struggled to find waterways as alive and rewarding as they once were. People who live in rural communities who are seeing farms they grew up on now covered in large white buildings for data centers or cookie cutter neighborhoods or chicken houses or whatever. Health nerds, moms with microplastics embedded in their placentas, ecologists who would be willing and able to take on big projects, bikers, hikers, entomologists, biologists, and basically anyone who drinks water or breathes air, which covers a lot of folks, it turns out. And if you're like hunters, fishermen, like what are you talking about? Yes, these are some of the most active conservationists we have. Indeed, there is so much opportunity here to get people of all stripes to come together and get on this issue of land, of soil, of air, of future generations, and just make it flat out awesome for them, if I'm allowed some idealism. Hopefully I've earned that, or at least you've come to expect it. So that is what I personally want to work more on, building policy ideas around an abundant future and building coalitions to put weight behind them, because it is possible to clean this place up, but also regenerate it and make it more beautiful, clear, abundant, largely through better soil management. And I just really don't want to be kicked in the shin. It hurts a lot, and I just don't want it to happen, especially not when I'm old. Let's please avoid that for myself and for you. Anyway, I guess consider this segment a primer of future stages of my work, taking the principles of soil health, ecological restoration, water management, soil management, and food abundance, and looking for ways to effectively scale it up and end this historical environmental massacre we are all living through. Otherwise, maybe we can all start reorienting our brains from, oh, well, we are powerless and this is inevitable, to we actually do have the power and we're going to fix this mess by just working towards it. And it will be beautiful, cheaper, and as a bonus, quite delicious. Let me know your thoughts, and otherwise, love you Friday, but we got to go. Don't forget, No Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and also my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Tea coming in clutch today. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of February, you get a shout on the show. So big shout outs today to Alex and Oliver, Dwight Yoder. Everybody gets a little today. That's fun. Bill King, Doug, and Ian at Grindstone Farms. Shouts to all our Sunlight and Beneficials supporters. Very, very important to what No Till Growers does, for sure. Thank you all. And of course, as your bonus, I tell you a ridiculous story. And as you will remember from this week's ridiculous story, James has put on a headset and been asked to play a chord progression, just any chord progression that comes to mind. As he does, a song sort of starts to play and write itself, like right in his little goggle set. The rest of the band begins to join in live as the music is written. He can see lyrics, even chord progressions. In fact, it's one of his own songs, one he's never really played for anyone, right there in front of him and in his ears. He stops abruptly and kind of just takes the headset off and is like, what is this? Well, they explain it's your song. The machine sort of helps people write their songs and then, brings it out of them, and then it tweaks it and completes it with you. It's just working with your brain and your imagination and your ideas. And so James puts the headset back on, and they spend the next hour or so just knocking out songs, some of which were just melodies in his head without lyrics or anything else. And now they have full-blown songs and choruses and all the things. In one day, they have 8 full songs complete with all the musical parts, lyrics, and a recording. As they wrap up, the producer tells James, who's elated at this is amazing to him, we have 2 options now, says the producer. We will own 75% of the rights to the songs, blast it through our socials, blow you up really well, and then send you all on tour, all that good stuff, or you can buy them from us for $10,000. James, pretty stunned at this brazen request, says, what, 75%? Like, but those are my songs. Well, the producer responds, technically, they are, co-written, and they wouldn't exist without us. Good songs, though, but, you kind of needed us. Just let us know what you want to do. We've got another guy coming in soon. And that's it. James walks out. And so, the next month, resigned James begins his tour. Poor James. Or is it great James? I don't know. You all can decide. Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you Monday, because come Monday, it'll be all right. Yep, Jimmy Buffett said that.